record on this computer. Okay, so this game was played in the Icelandic League. We're going to have a look at it, and the topic is kind of twofold. It's prophylaxis, seeing your opponent's ideas and stopping them, and number two, playing against a lower rated opponent, and the concept of giving your opponent options, giving him options so that he can go wrong. Okay, so I had the white pieces, and the game opened up with c4, the English opening. Knight f6, g3, g6, bishop d2. And now my opponent went d5. Regardless of if my opponent goes d6 or d5, do you know what we call these kinds of openings for black? Do we have a name for that? Is it classical opening or something else? Modern? Yeah, modern. Modern is a good word. Hyper modern, actually. So we call basically, when we go e4 on the first move, e4, e5, or d4, d5, we call these classical openings. And classical openings, basically, black puts a pawn in the center and tries to hold on to it. Hyper modern openings, or modern, black doesn't put a pawn in the center, but tries to, well, get quick development for the pieces, and then attack the center and try to contest it sometime later. So I played d4. I'm white, so I put a pawn in the center. So I put something in the center, and if black plays this properly, he wants to like play bishop g7, castle, and put some pressure on the center, right? Okay, he plays bishop g7. I'll play knight f3. And now my opponent plays a move that I want to criticize. If you play a hyper modern opening like this, you want to like get quick development, and then eventually you want to challenge your opponent's center. In this case, my pawn on d4 with either c5 or e5. You want to have a pawn break. That's the idea of hyper modern openings. You know, get your pieces out, get castled, and then attack the center. But my opponent played c6, which I think is a poor move. But mind you, my opponent is he's quite strong. He's almost 2200, so he's not a weak player. But at most levels, like below Grandmaster, there are going to be weaknesses, and I've played my opponent before in this line, and he tends to go for the c6. The problem with this is that black does not have any any pawn or any control of the center, so he will suffer for that. I played e4, gaining this pawn duo, which is very important, and in many openings it's very important. If you play e4 in the first move, and white and black plays something funny like b6 or a6, in almost all cases you want to go d4. Let's say b6, you go d4, and in almost all cases you try to hold on to this pawn center because it's very strong. So this is what you want to do. If you can hold on to the center, you know, all the better. And in this case, after e4, knight b6, I already have the center. So I would say that white has already a small advantage because of the center, and you want to hold on to it. But now we go on to the theme. I want to play against my opponent's pieces and restrict them. So my next move already starts this restriction. How to how do we restrict our opponent's pieces here? We already have the center. It seems like black, if he could, he might go bishop g4. So it's not rocket science. I just want to stop my opponent from going bishop to g4. Yes, exactly, Montero. I play h3. So now I control this, I control this. So this bishop doesn't have a lot of squares. Agreed. We agree. This bishop does not have a lot of squares. Yeah, but you're absolutely correct. h3, you always have to think about such moves because you can weaken your king. You can weaken your position. In this case, I'm not worried because black is a long way from playing something like g5, g4 or something to make this pawn like a hook. So at the moment, h3 is restricting the bishop on c8. So I'm happy with that. So my opponent castled, I castled, and he played his knight to d7. Again, okay, he already moved like his knight to f6, to d5, to b6, which is what we don't want to do in the opening, but he already did that. And sometimes it's okay. It's a hybrid modern opening, but like I said, you want to at some point attack your opponent's center, but black is not doing that. But here, okay, he played knight a to d7. Didn't find like a good square for his bishop because we are already controlling a lot of squares. But now he wants to play e5. Okay, and that's like really hard to stop. If I go e5, that's probably a weak move because I give up the d5 square for his knight. So I decided to play queen c2. And the idea is at some point he wants to play e5, I will play rook d1. And I am lining up against his queen. Okay, he played e5, logical move. And now I played bishop g5. And now again we come to the point that I mentioned about playing a lower rated opponent. When you're playing a lower rated opponent, you want to give him as many options, as many chances as you want to go wrong. Pass pawn with an excellent question. Sigvard Taras said knights on b3 and b6 and g3 and g6 are misplaced. You agree with that quote? I do agree with that quote, and we will come to exactly that point in this game. A great example of this game. Not only Taras, I think Kasparov mentioned exactly this point about knights on b6 and g6, and we will come to that point. But okay, for now I played bishop g5, and okay, like I said, we want, when we're playing lower rated opponents, we want to give them choices, and here black has plenty of choices. He can play bishop f6, he can play f6, or he can move his queen. I'm not going to say which one is best. It doesn't really matter. I'm just giving my opponent choices. The more choices I give him, the more chances I give him to go wrong. So let's say he goes bishop f6. Okay, I go bishop h6. The game goes on. Either he goes back and I take, or he goes rook e8 and I develop my position. He could go f6, which I don't think is a good move. Then I go back and he has blocked this diagonal for the bishop. And he has opened this diagonal for probably one of my pieces, right? So in the end, my opponent went for queen e8. But logical move in many ways. But like starting from this move, c6, which was slightly passive and slightly not in the spirit of the opening. The spirit of the opening is to develop quickly and then strike in the center. c6 does neither. It does not develop a piece, and it does not strike at the center. So he kind of lost time, which you can't do in a hyper-modern opening like the Grunfeld. So what has happened is you do have this piece, which has moved a lot, like to f6, d5, and then here. You have this piece, and you have this piece. And it's hard to move. It's hard to move these pieces, right? And we'll soon come to what pass pawn actually, yeah, exactly. The pieces seem to be causing traffic jams with each other. And we'll come to this point about knight on b6, which is a very, very useful pattern, knight on b6 or g6. We'll come to that. Very good point by pass pawn. We'll continue. I thought I saw what pass pawn suggested we have these pieces like congesting each other. So I played a4. And my idea is, okay, this knight doesn't have a lot of squares. I mean, this is occupied, 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 occupied. He doesn't have a square. Either the square is occupied or I control it. So he has to do something. So he played a5. But the problem with a5 is that now you no longer have a pawn protecting the piece. So what I did now is, like in general, I want to develop, but I thought I'll play bishop e3. And my idea is I'm hitting this. This is not a great piece. Doesn't have a lot of squares, and I'm kind of hitting it tactically. If it was white to move now, I would play e takes d4. Sorry, d takes e5. And black is in trouble because he can't take with the knight because, well, I would be hitting the knight here. And if he takes the bishop, I remove his bishop. And I'm better because I have a very good bishop, which he doesn't have, and he has a lot of weaknesses on black squares. So he took on d4, I took with the knight, but still the pressure remains. He would love to move the knight somewhere, but once he does, I will take on c6. He takes with something, and I take here. I win a pawn. So he can't really move the knight, right? So he played queen e7. And now we come back to the subject that we're talking about, prophylaxis. Thinking about what does your opponent want to do and how do we prevent it? So queen e7, what does our opponent want to do? He's already in starting with the move c6 and breaking some other opening principles. He's already in some trouble. But what does he want to do? I think he wants to ease the pressure. I think he wants to ease the pressure here. Play something like, if I were to play a move like rook d1, I think he wants to play queen g5 and try to ease the pressure. Can we prevent that in any way? Prophylaxis. Find your opponent's idea and prevent it. Do we have some ideas, guys? Rook c1, precisely. Rook c1. Simply preventing a piece coming to c5. Ideally, I would love to put my rook on d1 because it's a better file. But here I just want to prevent rook c1. So excellent point. Okay, so if I had played rook d1, he would play queen c5. And tactically it works out because I would love to play this move, but then he will play knight c takes a4. Protect the knight, attack this. And black has no problems. So I'll play rook c1. I like this move. And again, he has this congestion of pieces that want to move but can't move. So in the end, he settled on queen f6. Now, two questions. One, what does black want to do here? What is black's idea? And 2, what can we do to prevent it? Now, the move that I chose to prevent black's idea looks perhaps a bit odd, but keep in mind that black also is very congested, and we can allow ourselves to spend some time to prevent black's ideas, because he has to spend more time to develop the pieces. So number 1, what is the threat that black has after queen f6? And number 2, how do we prevent it? Montero. So far, you proved wrong. You proved right every time. Okay, he's thinking. I mean, he did move his queen from e7 to f6, lining up with the bishop, right? Lining up on the diagonal, right? So what does he want? Pressure here, right? So if black were to move, he would probably play c5, correct, exactly. He would play c5. I move my knight, then he takes his pawn. Okay, so that's what black wants to do, but how do we prevent it? How do we prevent it? I'm not saying it's the best move. It's the move I played, but I thought at the time, and still, I think it's quite clever. I think it's knight f3. Then he takes, if knight f3, then he takes on b2, right? That doesn't prevent it. So how do we prevent our opponent's idea? Knight b3, he still takes, right? We need something that prevents completely our opponent's idea of taking on b2. Okay, I'm going to reveal it. I played the move rook a2. It looks kind of silly, but I like it. The idea is the rook simply covers b2. We also get out of any line of fire on this diagonal, so at some point we will be able to play b3. And then maybe we can, at some point, swing the rook over to wherever we need it on d2, e2, or f2. And still we have this congestion here, right? These pieces. So I'm not saying it's the best move, but it's very in line with what we're trying to look at here, prophylaxis. Okay, my opponent played rook to e2. Sorry, rook to e8. And I'd love to get my knight to c3, but then knight to c4. So I still want to prevent that, so I played knight to d2. And still, it's very hard for my opponent to move, because you'd love to move this knight. But once again, if you move it, be it here or whatever, I will take this, and my bishop is going to take his knight, and I win a pawn. So he can't move this knight, but then he can't move this bishop, and this knight is stuck. So he has this huge congestion of pieces, which explains why a very strong player couldn't find anything other than queen to d6. Okay, hitting this knight on d4. So I simply protected it, knight 2 to b3. My knight on d2 probably stands better on b3. Protecting the knight, hitting the pawn, eyeing this square. Yeah, exactly. This code is all working. So, okay. Still, my strong opponent couldn't find anything better than queen e7, moving the queen yet again, which shows the problems that black is having with development. Okay, but now I have to find a way to develop my position. And when you don't know what to do, you try to improve a piece, right? I would say that at the moment, like statically, white is better because I have a pawn in the center. I have better development because he still hasn't developed the bishop, which means that he can't connect the rooks. And in terms of weaknesses, it's pretty equal because black would love to get a knight here, but it takes a long time. But in terms of like pawn structure, open files development, white is better. But okay, originally I played my rook to c1 to stop him from playing something to c5. But now that moment has passed and I need to improve my pieces. So I decided I want to improve this rook. I want rook d1. This is an open file. This is only a semi-open file. So I'm happy to improve the rook. I play rook d1. Okay, still we have this very, very, very strange congestion of pieces here. And in the end, my opponent actually found a very good way to get out of this. He played knight to b8. And the idea is to use the b4 square. In general, this should be a bad move because of this hangs. But all of a sudden, he can take with a knight. And he has knight b4. And he's forking my queen and my rook, which I can't allow. So all of a sudden, this tactic doesn't work. So, okay, I just improved my rook. This rook finished its job of covering the c file, went to the d file. But now this rook here also finished its job of covering b2. So I thought I don't need it there anymore. I'll go to a1. And the time lost doesn't matter because black is losing a lot of time with these pieces. He couldn't move them. We're already on move 19. And he has this a8, b8, c8. He hasn't moved these pieces. Well, actually, he moved them back and he moved them and came back. But the end result is that at move 19, he has actually at move 20 now. He plays knight 6 to d7, and he still has these pieces at move 20 on their original squares. Okay, so he finally takes care of this knight that could move, but still he has this problem. Okay, after all of this, still white, okay, white is better, but it's not game over. It's not like I haven't won any material. It's a positional game. And now I'll start with move queen d2. And the idea here is, okay, I have a queen and the rook on an open file, and we're eyeing this as well, right? Okay, my opponent goes knight f6, attacking her pawn. Once again, simple threat, and we want to react to it. Prophylaxis. What do we do? Nothing fancy. Yeah, f3, correct. Yeah, queen t3 he can take, but f3, a simple move. In general, this looks like a weakening move because we're opening this diagonal, but is black doing anything here ever? No, it's going to be a long time. Also, we did weaken this pawn. Is that an issue? No, because we can quite easily play bishop f2. I mean, he can play like here and here, but we can play bishop f2 and f4. It's not going to be an issue. So we can play f3 safely. The one thing we have to worry about is maybe knight d5 at some point, because we can't take with his hanging. But having said that, he can already get this knight to b4. So getting the other knight to b4 is really not a problem for us, right? Okay, so after f3, he played b6 because this is hanging. And now I kept going with this prophylactic thinking. I mean, this is not hanging at the moment, and he's not playing this, but let's just play here. Bishop f2. The bishop is no longer hanging, and this is no longer hanging. And it's my opponent's move. So I try to give my opponent the move with as many options as possible, right? That's what we want to do against lower rated opponents. Give them options. Because if you capture something, and he has one way to capture. It doesn't matter if he's a 1200 or a grandmaster, he will capture back. So you eliminated the skill difference with this one move. So you want to make as many moves where the skill difference will make a difference. Simple concept, but once I heard this concept, it improved my results tremendously. Believe me. And after I learned that, I mean, trick, if you will, it's not really complicated. But for like a long period, like 8 or 9 years, I did not lose to a 2200 or below. And I started winning a lot more games simply by following this concept. Give your opponent as many options as possible in the game. Believe me, if you start thinking about this will be a very important concept. Okay, let's keep going with the game. Bishop b7. And okay, let's keep going. Simple chess. I thought this bishop was better. Here we keep improving our pieces. I played rook h1. I think I'm playing quite logically. This rook didn't have a lot of stuff to do here, so I improved it. Rook c8 by my opponent. He might have a better move there. I don't know. He might want to play this, but rook knight to f5 is actually quite strong because I take this as jack and he doesn't have a good move. So he played rook c8, avoiding my trap. And now I played knight e2. This bishop buys this. He can play knight d7, but still he's a very passive. And note that during all of this, because he played the hybrid modern opening and he played it passively, he hasn't put a pawn in the center. So I can still probably play something like f4 and e5. And he's not going to be happy, right? So this is why you have to play, if you play a hybrid modern opening like this, you have to play it actively, because otherwise you just give your opponent too much freedom, too much space to do things. He ended up playing c5 here, indirectly protecting the pawn. But that made even more sense of my move knight e2, because now I go knight c3, and I'm eyeing the b5 square and the d5 square with my knight here. He went knight c6. And still I continue with like improving my pieces. That's kind of the third concept that we're going through. It's prophylaxis, it's playing against low rated opponents, giving them options, and kind of the third concept is improving the worst piece. We already did that with the rook. The rook was not doing anything. We put it here. So now what is the worst placed piece? It's kind of this one. And I want to go back to what past pawn mentioned. I want to go back a few moves. So we're in move 26 here. I want to go back a few more moves to when I played a4. Here. And past pawn made an excellent point about knights on b6 or g6. And in general, they're not considered very good because a knight on g6 is already dominated by a pawn on g3. Because I dominate these squares, right? You're not coming in. You're not coming into my house. Same for this knight. If I play b3, I am already dominating c4 and a4. You're not coming into my house. In this case, I didn't have to play b3 because I'm already covering these squares. So I played a4. I'm already covering these squares. But in both cases, this knight just simply doesn't have a lot of options. So keep that in mind. These knights, b6, g6, they tend to be quite bad. So I wanted to address that point because it was a very, very excellent point raised by past pawn. So we're going back to after 92, c5, knight c3, knight c6. I played queen e2. And the idea is to improve the worst placed piece, which is this one. And I want it here and then here. Beautiful square, right? And I'm not worried about this because I just play knight b5. Because of all the weaknesses on the light squares, I'm quite happy with this trait, light squared bishop for the knight. Okay, you played knight b4, I played knight d2. Keeping up with my plan, I want to go here. Bishop c6, knight c4. My opponent played queen e6. And yeah, the next few moves, we're just going to go through quickly because actually my recording of the moves wasn't completely accurate here, so I wasn't sure of the order of the moves. But we arrive at this position after king h2. Now we're back at the correct position. And then the last few moves didn't really matter all that much. White keeps this positional advantage. We do have still a better, the better pawns, the better control of the center because of these pawns. Also our bishops. Our bishops are quite nice and our knights are excellent. And comparing like this knight to this knight, this knight kind of is staring into empty air because our knight is controlling some squares that are important. This knight is attacking something, and this knight, it's just passive. If you compare the pieces and the pawns, white stands better. Bishop f8 played by black. And here, a typical move. Like we've seen this like numerous times in this game, like the rook from here to here, the knight from here to here. Okay, we had to move the queen first, but like improving pieces. Sometimes chess is just, you just improve a piece slightly and you go from there and try to develop your position. And also, I quite like this move. I just played bishop f3, a small move. You know, make your opponent make a decision. Again, coming to this point, playing a low-rated opponent, make him make the decision. What does this move do? Not much, but something. Protects the queen, extra square for the king, extra move for the bishop, extra diagonal. And more importantly, since we have the static advantage, we have the better structure, we have more influence in the center, more space, better pieces. So if we keep that, the onus is on our opponent to do something, to prove something. So we're quite happy to make such a small move and make our opponent make a move. And in the end, my opponent, he went for a trade here, which I don't think is a good one. He took on b5, played knight c7, and now bishop e5. And Okay, we were already in time trouble. Probably queen e8 is a better move here to keep the game going. But still I have the bishop pair and like great dynamics. But he went for d5, sorry, f5. But I think now black is close to lost. Okay, I take, and he kind of has to take on e2, which he did. Took on d1, and then took on b5. Note that if he takes on f5, my pieces just come to life very easily. I might be able to play knight e5, but I think a move like knight e3 is quite fine, just attacking this pawn. And this bishop coming to c4 is just absolutely a monstrous bishop. And note that this, even though this looks like an outpost, this guy isn't going anywhere. And this bishop, not very active, blocked by its own pawns, not doing much. So it took a b5, but I already think it's quite difficult for black. And I think it's quite noteworthy how, like, slowly but surely the position falls apart. Without like one, there was not like one like huge blunder. It was like it started with c6 inaccuracy, and you had problem with your pieces, and it just slowly, builds up, and then you just can't keep up. And it's very often how chess games are won. I play knight e5. Of course, I'm attacking this, so that keeps this alive. He played knight c3, but bishop c4 check, and now all my pieces come to life here. Knight f7 check. He can't go into the discovery, so I create another one. Yeah, the knight is just the knight on b4. Like Passmore said, it's just a decoration, and the bishop is an absolute monster. It's like a Fischer bishop, a Fischer king's bishop. Fischer loved his king bishop, and this is yeah, Fischer will be proud of this bishop. That's all I'm going to say. And now, yeah, the position has basically fallen apart here. I'm threatening all kinds of things. He played rook e8. We were in time trouble, so I actually repeated once here with knight h8, knight f7. But then I found the right idea with knight e5 and knight c4, and black resigned because once he moves the king, I'm playing bishop f7, and I'm winning everything. So yeah, that was the game I wanted to show you. I thought it definitely one of my best games because I kind of kept this theme of prophylaxis throughout the game, and it's a concept that was like in my mind from the Baku Olympiad in 2016. I was the team captain of Iceland, and one of the legends of Icelandic chess, Jóhann Hjartarson, he played the game at the Olympiad, showed us the game, and kept talking about his prophylactic ideas. And I kept that in mind, and I think it paid dividends in this game. So welcome to Carlos. Unfortunately, we're just about to finish, but I did record the lecture, and I will post it. Thanks for dropping in. We looked at one of my games from the Icelandic League with some concepts about prophylaxis and playing lower-rated opponents. So it kind of like an impromptu lecture, if you will. Thanks, Montero. Montero says, very good game. Welcome to the thank you. Thanks for the great lecture and great tips. Much appreciated, Ingvar. Thank you, Passpon. Something I wanted to try. I mean, like impromptu, I might try this again and get more people, but like for now, I just recorded this. I will post this somewhere, and maybe people will see it, and we'll get more people next time, and we'll get more interaction. But for now, I will sign out, and thanks, guys, for joining me, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.